humility and courage, and John Lewis embodies both. In fact, humility could be the title of this book. You should know about John Lewis' simple determination and single-mindedness. There's a book that I read in seminary by Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish theologian, and the title of it was Purity of Heart. And purity of heart is to will one thing. And that was the way John Lewis dealt with any issue. He focused on whatever was absolutely and spiritually essential. And he didn't care whether it was popular. He didn't care what was political. He didn't care that the majority might or might not think it right, because the majority of black students and leaders in Nashville didn't particularly agree on the sit-ins when they started. But that didn't deter John. And in the 1965 march from Selma to Montgomery, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee voted not to participate. They were playing movement politics, sort of, and the ego politics, but that didn't deter John. He said, I'm marching not as the chairman of SNCC, but I'm marching as John Lewis, and I'm a citizen of Alabama, and I'm going to make that march. He ended up leading it with Hosea Williams, another prominent civil rights leader and activist from Savannah, Georgia. When John was an early teenager, he sent a letter to Martin Luther King, who answered him and sent him money for a bus ticket to come to Montgomery to visit his church. And Martin took him home to dinner after that church service. And that was how impressive a kid he was. He was known by Martin as the boy from Troy. And that's how Martin and John met. Two giants of the civil rights movement in their early years, before any of us knew who either of them were. I never knew John to show anger or frustration. John had the kind of purity of heart that Kierkegaard described, and he had it since he was a teenager. Throughout his life, he remained the same, innocent, dedicated, visionary child who went to see Martin Luther King. He was the same in Congress. He would go to anybody's congressional district and draw a crowd. Everybody wanted to meet him because everybody wanted to meet one good man. And John Lewis was one good man. The basis of his power in Congress was that he was able to get anybody reelected. It's 5% difference between almost 75% of the congressional seats. And a visit from John Lewis in a community that was 10, 20% black could increase the voter turnout and help almost anybody get elected. And John was willing to spend his weekends and go campaign with Democrats and even Republicans if they were the kind of people that he believed in. He was one of the people in Congress that everybody admired and respected because he was as close to a saint as they'd ever seen in Washington. He was more like the Dalai Lama or Gandhi than a politician. And when he wasn't helping people, he was reading his Bible because he always wanted to be a preacher. And in many ways, he was a preacher. It was spiritual with John, and it was a magnetic spirituality that drew people to him. You'd rarely hear him laugh out loud. His laugh was very guarded, but he always had a twinkle in his eye, and he always seemed to be very, very happy. He wasn't in any way argumentative or aggressive. It was almost like he thrived on lacking an aggressive personality. His humility and courage were magnetic. They drew you to him. And yet he wasn't all righteous. He didn't expect you to be like him.